All right, so get ready to click your heels together 3 times because today we're diving deep into Oz.
Oz.
Yes, Oz. Well, not just the film.
Right.
You know, The Wizard of Oz. We're going to be going beyond that.
Yeah.
But you sent over some really interesting stuff, excerpts from Salman Rushdie's essay on the film.
Yeah.
And some behind-the-scenes production details as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating to kind of see this film through Rushdie's eyes.
Yeah,
You know, as an Indian-born writer, he brings this really unique perspective.
Yeah, and he does say some stuff that, you know, you watch it and you're like, yeah, I never really thought about it that way. Like his whole point about Kansas being kind of bleak and even more so in the film than in the book.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with Miss Gulch.
Right.
You know, she's this...
Oh, she's terrifying.
She's terrifying. This monstrous figure who's like, you know, such a threat to Dorothy's happiness.
Yeah. I mean, she practically turns into a witch. You know, before we even get to Oz, it's like, wow.
Exactly.
So you're kind of like, is there really no place like home?
Right. Is Kansas really all that great?
Yeah.
And Rushdie really gets into the way that the film visually emphasizes that contrast between those two worlds. You know, he talks about the use of geometric shapes in the Kansas scenes.
Oh, interesting.
Lots of squares, rectangles, very structured and predictable.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Right.
So in contrast to Oz, how does that...
So in Oz, everything is curvy, irregular, unpredictable.
Yeah.
So visually, you get this sense of chaos.
Yeah.
Compared to the order of Kansas. And this speaks to, you know, kind of a bigger theme that Rushdie highlights, which is this tension between the known and the unknown.
Yeah, so Kansas represents safety.
Safety, but also restriction.
Yes, exactly. And Oz, even with its dangers, represents this
possibility,
freedom. Yeah. This kind of freedom. And I think that's really where Over the Rainbow comes in. Oh, man, what a song.
I know.
Gives me chills every time.
So powerful.
Rushdie even says, you know, that's what made him want to be a writer.
Oh.
He heard that song and he was like, that's it. I'm gonna be a writer.
It's hard to imagine the film without it.
Yeah, and it almost was cut.
I know, right?
Because the lyricist didn't think that Judy Garland had a strong enough voice.
Oh, my gosh. Could you imagine?
Talk about wrong. What a mistake that would have been.
Yeah, like The Wizard of Oz without Over the Rainbow. It's so important to the whole...
It's integral to the whole...
feeling of the movie.
Absolutely. And, you know, Over the Rainbow, it's not just a pretty song. It speaks to this, like, universal human longing, you know, for something more.
Yeah.
A better place, a different reality.
Yeah.
And Rushdie, coming from his own experience as an immigrant, you know, calls it a hymn to elsewhere.
Wow. A hymn to elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's such a...
Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful way to put it. It's not just Dorothy wanting to escape. It's, you know, it's all of us.
Anyone who's ever felt stuck, you know, longing for something beyond their everyday life.
Absolutely. And I think this yearning for change ties in really well with the characters that Dorothy meets on her journey.
You mean like Scarecrow, Tin Man, Cowardly Lion?
Yeah, those guys.
I mean, those guys are hilarious.
They're so funny.
Rushdie's a big fan of Burt Lahr.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the actor who played the lion. He loves his little rhymes.
Yeah, his silly rhymes.
Yeah.
But there's also this, like, deeper layer to those characters, you know?
Okay.
Rushdie calls them hollow men.
Hollow men.
Which might sound kind of negative, but it's actually what makes them so relatable.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Explain hollow men.
Well, so think about it. The Scarecrow wants a brain. The Tin Man wants a heart. The lion wants courage.
Okay.
They represent these things that we often feel like we're missing in ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? But the twist is they already have those qualities. They just don't see it yet.
So it's like they, and we, by extension, already have the power within ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
We just need to learn to recognize it.
Exactly. And this idea is further emphasized by the wizard himself.
Oh, right.
Who turns out to be another hollow man hiding behind illusions.
He's kind of a lovable fraud, isn't he?
He is. He's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in a way that reinforces the film's message of self-reliance, you know?
Yeah.
The true source of strength and wisdom lies within ourselves, not in some external authority figure.
Yeah. Wow. You know, and I'm starting to see how, like, these simple characters and plot points are actually pretty layered and complex.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes it such a rich and enduring film, you know?
Yeah.
It works on these multiple levels, appealing to both children and adults.
Totally. And speaking of layers, let's talk about those ruby slippers.
Oh, yeah.
They are iconic.
Yeah.
And I read that a pair actually sold at auction for a fortune.
Yeah, Rushdie talks about that in his essay, and it's so interesting, it makes you think, why are those shoes so valuable?
Yeah.
What do they represent to people?
Well, I mean, for one, they're just beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Like all sparkly and red, but I'm guessing there's more to it than that.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
They represent different things to different people, escape power, a connection to childhood, the magic of the film itself.
And get this, those auction slippers were probably for Judy Garland's stand-in.
Oh, wow.
Not even the main stars.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these objects can take on a life of their own, and become these almost sacred relics for fans. They transcend their material reality.
Right.
And they become imbued with this meaning and nostalgia.
Yeah, it is interesting how that happens. But, okay, let's not forget the person who gives Dorothy those slippers.
Oh, right.
Glinda the Good Witch, I have to admit.
Yeah.
I've always found her a bit, I don't know, condescending.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
Well, she kind of swoops in all sparkly and pink and tells Dorothy what to do.
Yeah.
And, she has that line about only bad witches being ugly, which hasn't really aged well.
Right. It's a little...
Just say that.
Yeah, a little politically incorrect.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, right? Because she doesn't tell Dorothy everything about the slippers.
Right.
Does she?
No, she doesn't.
It makes you wonder about the power dynamics at play there.
Yeah. Like, is she really helping Dorothy or is she manipulating her?
Right, exactly. And then this actually ties into a bigger point that Rushdie makes about the film.
Okay.
Which is that it's really about female power.
Oh, interesting.
When you think about it, the main conflict is between Glinda and the Wicked Witch of the West.
Right.
There are no male heroes driving the story.
No, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
So maybe the Wicked Witch of the East wasn't so bad after all.
Right? What if she was just...
Maybe she was
trying to protect her land from these outsiders.
Interesting.
It's a provocative thought.
Yeah.
And it really does make you question these assumptions about good and evil.
Right? It's like those black and white scenes in Kansas at the beginning.
Yeah.
Everything seems so clear-cut.
Right.
But then we get to Oz.
Everything's more complex.
It's all nuanced and gray area.
Exactly. That's such a great connection. And speaking of Kansas,
yes,
let's circle back to that idea of home that we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Because Rushdie has this really interesting take on the whole.
Yeah.
There's no place like home message.
He doesn't buy into it.
No, he doesn't.
Does he?
He's like, if Kansas is so great, why is Dorothy so eager to escape?
Exactly. And remember, in the Oz books, she actually moves to Oz permanently.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not about, like, literally going back to where you came from.
Right.
It's more about finding the place where you truly belong.
Exactly.
Where you can be your true self.
It's about creating your own sense of belonging, your own Oz, wherever that may be.
I love that. That's such a powerful idea, especially for people who have left their homelands. Right. Like immigrants,
Yeah, it speaks to that whole experience of feeling caught between two worlds.
Right.
Searching for a new place to call home. And it makes me think about how the film itself kind of blurs the lines between fantasy and reality.
Right. Like, is Oz a real place?
Yeah.
Or is it all in Dorothy's head?
Exactly. And the film leaves it open to interpretation.
Right.
But I think what's important is how it uses that ambiguity to explore the power of imagination and storytelling. Oz becomes this metaphor for the transformative experiences that we have in our own lives.
It's like we're all on a journey down our own yellow brick road.
Exactly.
Facing our own challenges.
Yeah.
Discovering our own inner strength.
And for Dorothy, that visual transition from black and white Kansas to Technicolor Oz really represents that shift from the mundane to the magical.
Oh, man, that scene where the farmhouse door opens and she steps out into Oz.
I know.
Is breathtaking.
It's iconic.
Every time.
And can you imagine being a child in the 1930s?
Oh, my God.
Seeing that explosion of color for the first time.
Yeah.
It was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But those colors aren't just for show, they have a symbolic purpose.
They're telling us something about those two worlds.
Exactly.
Like, Kansas is drab and ordinary.
Yeah.
And Oz is just vibrant and
full of possibility.
Full of life, yeah.
And they really enhance that dreamlike quality of Oz, making it feel even more otherworldly and magical.
Yeah. All this talk about the visual aspects of the film reminds me of something I read about the production.
Okay.
Did you know that Buddy Ebsen?
Oh, yeah.
who was later in the Beverly Hillbillies.
Right.
Was originally cast as the Scarecrow.
That's right.
But he had to drop out because he had a severe allergic reaction to the silver makeup.
I know, to the silver makeup they used for the Scarecrow's face?
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
It's wild.
The challenges and dangers involved in making those early films. We kind of take a lot of that movie magic for granted.
Yeah, we do.
These days.
It's true. And it's a good reminder that behind all the spectacle and the fantasy, there are real people putting in incredible effort to create those worlds on screen.
And despite all those difficulties, The Wizard of Oz went on to become a timeless classic.
It did. And it's amazing how a film that was initially a box office flop has had such a lasting impact on our culture.
I think it speaks to the universality of its themes.
Yeah.
Home, belonging, self-discovery.
Absolutely.
These are things that resonate with people of all ages and backgrounds, regardless of when or where they live.
Yeah, it's like the film captures something deep within us. You know, that yearning for adventure, that belief in the possibility of transformation.
Yeah, and it does so with humor and heart.
Yeah.
And a touch of magic.
And you know, it's interesting how the film presents that theme of transformation through those unheroic heroes that we talked about earlier. The Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion.
Right.
You know, they embody those parts of ourselves that we sometimes feel are missing.
It's like they're on a quest to find the things that they already possess.
Exactly. The Scarecrow learns that he's already intelligent. The Tin Man discovers his capacity for compassion.
Right.
And the Cowardly Lion finds his courage.
Yeah.
And it's the wizard, a humbug himself, who gives them what they need.
Which is
the belief in themselves.
Oh, it's so clever how the film uses that irony.
Yeah.
To highlight the power of self-belief. It's not about some external force giving you what you need.
Right.
It's about recognizing your own strengths and potential.
Exactly. And that message kind of ties back to the ruby slippers, you know? Because Glinda tells Dorothy that they have magic.
Right.
But it's never really clear what that magic is.
Right.
And then at the end, we find out Dorothy had the ability to return home all along.
So the slippers are just a symbol, a tool.
Exactly.
The real magic lies within Dorothy herself.
The journey isn't about the destination. It's about the self-discovery that happens along the way.
And that resonates so deeply with the immigrant experience. You know?
Yeah.
You leave everything you know behind you. You venture into the unknown. And ultimately, you find a new home, a new sense of self.
Yeah.
And you do that not by clinging to the past, but by embracing the journey itself.
You know, that reminds me of something Rushdie said about his own relationship with home.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about how leaving his homeland made the concept of home much more complex and even problematic for him.
I can relate to that. As I've gotten older and moved away from where I grew up, the idea of home has definitely become more fluid for me.
Right.
It's not just a physical place anymore.
It's a feeling.
It's more about a feeling, a connection to people and places that hold meaning for me.
It's like Dorothy says at the end of the film. If I ever go looking for my heart's desire again, I won't look further than my own backyard. And if it isn't there, I never really lost it to begin with.
It's beautiful. It's a reminder that sometimes what we're searching for is already within us.
Exactly.
We just need to have the courage to look. And The Wizard of Oz, in its own fantastical way, gives us that courage.
It does. It encourages us to dream, to believe in the impossible, and to embark on our own yellow brick roads, no matter where they may lead.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we'll discover a little bit of Oz along the way.
You know, it's funny how we often associate The Wizard of Oz with childhood, but like the more we dig into it, the more I realize how much it speaks to like the adult experience as well.
Oh, absolutely. Those themes, you know, home belonging, self-discovery.
Yeah.
These are all things that we're grappling with, you know, throughout our lives, not just as kids.
Yeah, and I love how Rushdie challenges that simplistic notion of there's no place like home.
Right.
You know, it's not always about physically going back to where you came from.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about creating a new sense of home wherever you find yourself.
Exactly. And for Dorothy, that transformation, that realization that home is more than just a place is like reflected in her final line of the film.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she says, it wasn't a dream, it was a place.
Yeah.
A real, truly live place.
Like she's holding on to that experience, that truth.
Yeah.
Even if nobody else believes her.
Absolutely.
Which, let's be honest, is something we all experience.
Oh, yeah.
At some point in our lives.
All the time. We have these moments of clarity, these experiences that shape us.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like nobody else understands what we've gone through.
Totally.
Yeah.
But But those experiences, those truths, are what make us who we are.
Exactly. They make us who we are.
Yeah. It's like Dorothy's journey to Oz is a metaphor for any experience that takes us out of our comfort zone, that forces us to confront our fears,
Right.
ultimately leads us to a deeper understanding of ourselves.
And I think that's what makes The Wizard of Oz so enduring and so powerful. You know, it speaks to that universal human experience of searching for meaning, for connection, for a place where we truly belong.
It really is a story that transcends time and culture.
Yeah.
And think about it. This film was made in 1939.
I know.
And yet here we are,
Crazy.
almost a century later,
Yeah.
still talking about it,
Yeah.
still finding new layers of meaning in it.
It's a testament to the power of good storytelling, you know?
Yeah.
The Wizard of Oz manages to weave together fantasy and reality humor and pathos in a way that just resonates with audiences of all ages.
And those early scenes in Kansas with their stark black and white palette and those like geometric shapes.
Right.
It's like the film is setting us up for that transition to the vibrant, chaotic world of Oz.
Totally. Visually representing that shift.
Yeah.
You know, from the mundane to the magical.
It's so clever how the filmmakers use those visual cues to subtly prepare us for Dorothy's journey.
Yeah.
And then when that farmhouse door opens and she steps into Technicolor Oz, it's like we're stepping into a whole new dimension with her.
It's such a powerful moment, both visually and emotionally.
Yes.
It captures that sense of wonder and possibility that we all crave, you know, that feeling of escaping into a world where anything is possible.
Totally. And that world is populated with characters that are both familiar and fantastical.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wicked Witch of the West with her green skin and that cackling laugh.
Oh, yeah.
She embodies our fear.
Our fear.
And then Glinda the Good Witch, arriving in a bubble, represents hope and guidance.
Exactly.
And then those lovable misfits, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, they're like the embodiment of those parts of ourselves that we sometimes feel are missing.
Yeah, the ultimate underdogs on a quest to find what they already possess.
Right.
And their journey becomes this metaphor for our own search for wholeness, for self-acceptance.
It's like they're saying we're all a little bit broken,
Yeah.
or a little bit incomplete, but that's okay.
Right.
It's in those imperfections that we find our humanity, our connection to each other.
And it's through their interactions with the wizard, a humbug himself, that they realize, you know, the power lies within themselves.
Yeah.
Not in some external authority figure.
It's that classic message. You have the power to change your own life.
Yeah.
To create your own happiness. You just have to believe in yourself.
And The Wizard of Oz, with all of its whimsy and magic, reminds us of that essential truth.
It's a film that inspires us to dream, to embrace our imaginations, and to find the courage to follow our own yellow brick roads, no matter where they may lead.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into The Wizard of Oz, you know, I hope you'll take that message with you. If home is something we create rather than a fixed location, what does that mean for you?
Ooh, good question. What journeys are you on?
Yeah.
What transformations are you undergoing?
What are you searching for over the rainbow?
Ooh, that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
We've explored its rich symbolism, its timeless themes, and its enduring legacy.
And we've discovered how this seemingly simple story continues to speak to us, to inspire us, and to remind us of the magic that exists within each of us.
Until next time, keep diving deep.